One way or another, we all managed to enter this world, whether it be by conception or test tube. I'm sure most of you watching this video were born the conventional way, in a hospital where you were welcomed by two loving parents, just like this baby right here. Meet Harry and Zinnia Wormwood, the worst parents in fiction. Funny enough, they're actually married in real life. Fresh out of the hospital, and Harry is whipping it like it's Fast and Furious, clearly forgetting about the baby in the back. As a matter of fact, they all did, including her brother Michael, because they all bopped into the yard without her. And when I say her, I mean Matilda, just like the name of the film. Shout out to Simba for the idea, by the way. Because her family just doesn't give a toss about her, Matilda ended up raising herself from a young age. During the day, Michael went to school, Harry went to work, and Zinnia went to play bingo. Deep it. Her mother would rather gamble than look after her own daughter. It's actions like these that makes me question, why have a kid in the first place? Maybe Matilda was an accident. Maybe you were an accident. Who knows? But one thing we do know is that she is an avid reader. One night, Matilda mustered up the courage to ask her dad for a book. Spoiler alert, she didn't get the book. So she set off on a quest to La Biblioteca in search of a new book. Mind you, she is a 4-year-old walking around freely in the land of guns and weirdos. Anything could have happened. She could have gone missing. But that didn't stop her from doing the same journey over the next few years. Knowledge is power, guys. Stay woke. Her dad steps into her room one evening and asks where all the books came from. She says the library. And her dad is asking, how can a 4-year-old go to the library? Bearing in mind, she's 6.5 now. They straight up missed 2 birthdays. And when I say they, I mean her parents. Because even Zinnia thought she was 4 years old. How do you forget her birthday when you were there at her birth? Do these guys even like Matilda? Actually, don't answer that. The whole family is so invested in their own lives that they're missing the development of the newest edition. If you ever wonder why child services exist, it's for people like this. Harry came back from work one day and punished Matilda for being smart. If I had him as a dad, I would be begging for him to grab the milk. Later that night, Matilda got a bright idea and decided it was time for a get back. The following morning, she pulled out her father's hair oil and replaced it with bleach. So when he came to use it before work, he ended up dyeing his hair blonde. That same day, Harry took Matilda and Michael to his place of work and showed them why he's a bigger crook than Ed, and Eddie. Bro's gonna sell a 100-pound rust bucket for 10 bags. This is daylight robbery if I've ever seen it. Matilda looked to the left and saw the super glue and the hat chilling on the side and decided it was time to prank the crook one more time. Zinnia pulls up to the dealership and tells the family that she won for the first time forever and is taking them out to dinner. Matilda gives her dad the hat and he slaps it on no hezzy. They're at the restaurant now and Zinnia's telling Harry to take off the hat, but obviously he can't. Zinnia tried to help, but she didn't do anything that was remotely constructive. Harry hits a waiter, which leads to a chain reaction of events. The delicacies fly up into the air along with the menus. One of the waiters catches the menus whilst the cakes land on the table. Michael gets sprayed with cream, whilst Matilda enjoys her tart. We dissolve into the next scene and catch Zinnia cutting the hat off Harry's head. And this was clearly the last straw for him because he done banned Matilda from reading and ripped the book up in front of her before forcing her to watch TV. Which is ironic because this is the type of childhood every kid dreams of, me included. Not this though. This is bad television. And Matilda wasn't trying to become a degenerate like the rest of them. That's why she... R.I.P. the telly. Her dad finally came around and decided it was time for her to start school. But dear viewer, this was no school. Her dad sent her to Fox River prison. I already knew what was about to go down when I saw Harry talking to the warden in the shadows. She stepped out into the yard and the kids felt the bloodlust immediately. Now you may be wondering, what kind of demon are we dealing with here for the kids to be moving at this? Maybe it's Hisoka, maybe it's Arkaza. Nah. It's worse. Agatha Trunchbull, one of Satan's greatest soldiers. They say she caught a young boy lacking with 2 M&Ms and threw him out the window. Light work, no reaction. But the atrocities don't end there, because Miss Trunchbull had a Fortnite trap in the school. The Choki they called it. Let's not forget, this is a kid's film by the way. This can't be legal. Where is Ofsted? Where's the police? Tell a lie, there are feds in this film, but they're too busy investigating a con man rather than a potential serial killer. Tell me, who looks at a kid and says,
fresh meat.
You're weird! Trunchbull shares a little dialogue with a girl called Amanda Thripp, and before you know it, she was sky high. But you wanna know what's funny? How can a man say,
excellent release,
as if she green timed the throw? You can't tell me this isn't attempted. Should have been a murder. How you gonna run with your burger? If you know, you know. Amanda barely bust case, and I know Trunchbull was praying that she turned into a skewer. Anyhow, she was a fatty, it would have been cut to black. Matilda enters the classroom and comes across Miss Honey, one of, if not, the only sane adult in this film. We're gonna spin back to Miss Honey later on, but all you need to know is that she's the mother Matilda would have killed for. No joke. Miss Honey goes into Agatha's office and starts glazing Matilda, but she was not trying to hear it. F them kids, is what she said. Miss Honey pulled up to the Wormwood residence later that day and told Harry that he's a worse dad than Jean freaks. She also tells him that Matilda will be ready for uni sooner than the average person. But Zinnia said,
A girl does not get anywhere by acting intelligent. I mean, take a look at you and me. You chose books. I chose looks.
yeah, not a word of what she said penetrated their thick skulls, so she departed ASAP and left Matilda a parting gift on her way out. The next day comes around and Miss Trunchbull calls the entire school for a surprise assembly. She stands tall in front of the school and calls up big boy Bruce to the stage. He gets out of his seat and heads to the front. Trunchbull was accusing him of eating her chocolate cake, while Bruce is a real nigga and told her no comment, no comment, no comment. So you know what she did? She made Big Brucey eat more cake. Bruce wasn't trying to do all that, but Trunchbull said, Eat it! So he scrambled the cake, and surprisingly, it wasn't poison. As a matter of fact, he enjoyed it, but the cake was alive. That slice was the beginning of a humiliation ritual. The prison cook cuts True with some more. Ugh, that is foul. This is why I always wanted packed lunches, because why is she scratching her bum? No one can tell me Trunchbull isn't tapped, because how do you even think of a punishment like this? Trunchbull should have got a spin-off, because brother, I need to know what is going on inside that mind of hers. Why is she like this? I don't know what's crazier, the punishment or the fact that he actually finished the cake. He even licked the plate clean. Trunchbull didn't like the fact that the kid stood in union with Bruce, giving him the morale he needed. So she crashed out on him and then crashed out on the school by making everyone stay back an extra 5 hours. Matilda comes home and tells her parents what happened at school today, but they don't believe her. She also tells them that feds are watching the house, but they don't believe her. We cut back to the school and catch the Trunchbull on absolute timing. Off the rip, Matilda gets slapped in the chokey, all because her father sold her a brought down dinger. This school's getting wilder by the day. And guys know the spike chap used to take off 150 off your life. And Matilda has no shield, so RIP. Meanwhile, Miss Honey was prepping her class for the demon. She told the kids, don't breathe. Brother, what kind of entity are we dealing with? Matilda's fresh home from the choky and gets brought to the classroom, where we see a kid being dangled upside down for the vine. The kid gets dropped and Trunchbull pours herself a glass of newt water, drinks it and starts bugging out thinking it was a snake. Matilda raised her hand and corrected her by saying it's a newt, not a snake. Get it right. Trunchbull squares up to Matilda, but she stands 10 toes. She ain't afraid of her. Why should she be when she's got telekinesis? She launches the salamander onto Agatha and she begins to tweak out. She eventually launches the newt off her and it hits the ceiling before landing into this black kid's hands. Trunchbull blamed Matilda for the fiasco, but Miss Honey says,
How could she possibly have done it when she was sitting way over here?
The kids all leave the classroom and Matilda speaks to Miss Honey one-on-one. She tells her that she's got powers and tries to recreate the salamander incident, but it wasn't banging. The school day ends and as they are walking back to Miss Honey's crib, she drops her backstory. When she was 2 years old, her mother died. Her father, who was called Magnus, was a doctor, but he was never at home because of work, so he invited his wife's stepsister, aka Miss Trunchbull, to come look after her. When she turned 5 years old, Magnus died. Police said it was suicide, but let's be real, Trunchbull was smoking on that pack. Speaking of Trunchbull, they caught her committing animal cruelty. She done the cat worse than Kurt Zuma. With the Trunchbull out of the area, they decided to step inside the house. When Miss Honey moved out of her father's house, she left behind a lot of things from her childhood, like the portraits of her parents and a precious doll that was given to her by her mother. They were about to grab Miss Honey's childhood doll, but they heard Trunchbull on the phone screaming at Harry Wormwood. She came back to the house sooner than expected because her car broke down. She had to lift the car all by herself in order to get home. There's only 2 humans I've seen do this, her and Vin Diesel. Mid screaming, she notices someone infiltrated the gaff. Now they gotta do up 007 to try and make it out alive. But what they don't know is that Trunchbull can smell the ops. Matilda was about to get caught lacking, but Miss Honey did some quick thinking and shifted her attention. The Trunchbull darts across the corridor but stops in her tracks. Matilda clearly doesn't know the meaning of silent because she caused the whole kitchen to come crashing down. And what we see next just proves my hypothesis that the Trunch isn't human. Because look at this movement, there is nothing human about this. If I tried to replicate this, my knees would be gone. She steps into the kitchen and reaches below the dining table. She pulls up the cloth only to find nothing. However, the camera goes up and we see Matilda holding on for dear life. Frustrated she ain't caught a body yet, she sits down and devours some chocolate cake. I'm starting to think this is all she eats. Miss Honey slams the door, causing Agatha to get up and sprint for the tools. She reaches for the door but stops, because like I said earlier, she can smell the ops. And so she decides to run back upstairs. Miss Honey comes down the same way Matilda did and they both escape through the back rooms of the house. Trunchbull sees the windows shut and activates. She yanks a metal chain with ease and bursts bursts out from the basement. Annoyed that she doesn't find anyone, she takes her anger out on this stone statue and walks back fuming. Her strength is incredible if I do say so myself. We cut back to the Wormwood residence and catch Harry returning from work, only to find his wife cheating. Harry's a better man than me because I would have aired out that bitch, my wife included. Matilda then tells her dad to redirect his anger at her so she can jumpstart her powers. She uses her mind to try and shut the door whilst her dad was using his chisel, and eventually does it, and thus began the training arc. Matilda soon realised that she can not only use her dad's rage, but all the things that people have said to her as a catalyst for her powers. And it wasn't long before she had fully mastered telekinesis. Don't let the government find out about Matilda because, boy, she may never see the light of day. With her powers unlocked, she messes around with the feds since they were in the house without a search warrant. She also grabbed the evidence that they had against her dad in the hope that he would eventually come to his senses, which never happened. Later that day, she set off in the dead of night to try and retrieve Miss Honey's childhood doll. She pulls up to the house to see Trunchbull sharpening a spear, I think? I can't really tell what that is, not gonna lie. She uses her powers to open a window, grabs the door and skedaddles, but she was unaware that her ribbon got stuck on her branch as she was climbing down. You already know she couldn't leave without trolling the Trunchbull for a bit. It's only right. She played around with the clock, sent the hideous picture of her with the javelin into the fire where it belonged, and a bunch of other things. With the powers she possesses, she could have actually killed her. Wild. Matilda grabbed the portrait of Magnus and put it back on the mantelpiece where it originally was. And I guess this was the turning point because she fled the house and jumped in the bimmer. But this is where Matilda lacked because Trunchbull came across the red ribbon. Another day of school is here and Matilda swings the doll to Miss Honey along with a chocolate from the chest. Trunchbull pulls up on a passive aggressive thing and says hardly anything. All the while Matilda was cooking up her final plan. They're in the classroom now and Miss Honey was thinking about putting the doll back. If I was Matilda, I would have been thinking, bish, do you know what I did to get this? She starts flexing the telekinesis, showing Miss Honey that she wasn't lying. She really does have powers. However, the flexing gets interrupted when the kids slide through along with Agatha. She tells the children that she's taking over the class today, but she was just effing it up. True say, this wasn't even a lesson, it was an investigation. She tells the children that someone was in her house last night, but technically, no one was inside. She pulls out Matilda's red ribbon and asks if anyone recognizes it, but the kids stand on business and don't say a word. Miss Honey takes the blame and gets grabbed. She reverses the grapple and tells her aunt she's not a bee with an itch. Trunchbull then grabbed Matilda's neck. Isn't this illegal? I mean, not that she hasn't committed a crime before, but still. Matilda locks in and starts going crazy with her telekinesis. She starts off by writing on the chalkboard pretending to be the ghost of her step-uncle. Remember? The one that she packed up before hitting her with the chalkboard erasers and playing with the blinds. These kids are braver than me. They were just laughing whilst all this was happening. I would have been wetting myself if I was there. Everyone thought the Trunchbull was KO'd, so they all went in for a closer look. But she fooled everyone with that Oscar-worthy acting because she got up immediately and grabbed the child in the striped shirt. This kid caught her straight for no reason. He was just fulfilling his job as an extra. Matilda opens the window just before the launch and has him soar around the compound for a bit before entering back into the room, knocking Agatha onto the globe. She gets spun around the world a few times before getting chucked onto the floor. She gets up, disoriented of course, and ends up charging at Lavender. She misses and completely demolishes the door. All the kids catch Trunchbull lacking in the hallway and throw food at her. They get their revenge for all the years of terror and torment she put them through. Even big boy Brucey was involved. She hops in the brat down whip, slaps the car in reverse, and that was the last time anyone saw the Trunchbull. The film ends with Miss Honey moving back into her father's house. Matilda's family pulls up to the gaff and tells her, "We need to leave like yesterday, the feds are onto us." Nah, you don't say. Matilda tells Honey she's tired of this dysfunctional family that doesn't even know her name. Her father called her Melinda in this scene. Miss Honey agreed to adopt her and the parents signed the adoption papers lickety split. And just like that, she never had to see the Wormwoods ever again. Miss Honey became the principal of the school and Matilda finally got someone who truly loved her. Thank you for watching, and as usual, that's all she wrote.
語れない眠れない遠い目